They're your one-stop shop for all your Inter Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or intermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where Inter Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.
Doorbell camera. Now you have a front row seat to your house getting robbed.
They're breaking into my house!
Ooh, there goes the TV. I'm sure it'll turn up at the pawn shop.
No, not the TV!
Just because you can see them, that doesn't mean you can stop them. With Slogans, you get 24-hour monitoring, a free home security system, and professional installation. Plus, free doorbell camera, one that'll actually work for you.
Get out of my house!
Get out of the house! Call 1-800-ALARM-ME.
All right, we are live. I'm not sure what's going on with the camera. We will try to get that fixed for you right now. Not 100% sure what's going on. There we are. Now we are live here on the Raw recap, and we're going to get things started on a somber note. The passing of Scott Hall. It was WWE placed it up right as it went live. The family had taken him off life support earlier today, and he was fighting, kept fighting, but he did pass away, I think a little bit before Raw went on the air. So we've lost another good one, or in this case, the bad guy. And as he said, bad times don't last, bad guys do. And I remember him from Championship Wrestling from Florida days when he was first getting kind of started with Dan Spivey. They were the American Starship. And then the next time I saw him, I think was in AWA. He was teaming with Kurt Hennig, and then he became Gator Scott Hall and some other territories there. And then he became Razor Ramon. And I remember the first time I saw him with the vignettes here in Miami, portraying the Razor Ramon character. I was like, man, who is this guy? And then I read that it was Scott Hall, and I went back and I was like, it can't be the same Scott Hall. Total makeover, and it was. And it was amazing what he brought to that Razor Ramon character. It's amazing the talent that he was, and the way he changed wrestling for the better for the boys. With he went with the guaranteed contract. Him and Kevin Nash kind of redid that. That was after his Razor Ramon days. Of course, the curtain call with Razor, Kevin at MSG that kind of pulled the curtain back. A lot of heat was put on Hunter from that incident. But then Memorial Weekend, I believe it was May 27th in '96, is the first time you saw Scott Hall debut with walking through the audience. And from there, it was just a meteoric rise. Not that he wasn't, Razor Ramon was over, but man, the rise from once he debuted there as Scott Hall, the Outsiders with, and then Kevin Nash joined him later. And Frankie Fresco, what's going on, my man? Yeah, R.I.P. Scott Hall. And from there, him and Kevin Nash formed the Outsiders. And of course, Hogan joined and then it became the NWO. And I mean, from there, and I know everybody's probably been watching the videos throughout the day. The entrance to the Fugees at ECW, I've seen that over and over. And just the man oozed machismo, man. He really did. He was just the cool guy, right? He was the bad guy. He made it good to be bad. He made being bad cool, as everybody says. But in this one, man, just throw in the chats there. If you're watching on a podcast, you can email or hit me up on DMs at Sean_Stanley11. Send in some of your Scott Hall memories, man. Tonight's going to be all about, Scott Hall and some of the, the many memories you have. What he was in the WWE's first ladder match with Shawn Michaels. Now, of course, the Hardys, the Edge and Christian, and them kind of, took the ladder match to a whole nother level. But remember, it was Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 10 that started the ladder match. And that was when they ended up flipping Razor Ramon, who I never thought could be a good guy, and they turned him face, and everybody loved it. And that's kind of who Scott Hall was, right? I mean, just they have his demons, yeah, but he was beating those demons, I mean, he had beat them. He got into the Hall of Fame. He cleaned himself up. Listening to everybody, all the tweets today from, all the talent now, just how many he had touched. And it's just, he gave so much to the rest. I know his son, I'm not sure. I haven't seen a lot from him recently. Cody Hall, I know he was over in Japan. I don't know where he's at now currently, but man, just a bad day. It's a sad day, man. Sad day. I know Kevin Nash sent out the Instagram this morning and just saying, that the family was going to pull him off life support. And then today it was just kind of, wait and see. And I know Sean Waltman went on his Twitter feed and was like, look, I know everybody means well, but seeing, R.I.P. for a friend who's still breathing, taking breaths, and again, it was one of those days, man. It's almost a surreal day, man. It's just Frankie Fresco, I remember 1, 2, 3 Kid beat Razor Ramon. Eventually they were part of NWO. Yeah, no, but you have to remember Sean Waltman, 1, 2, 3 Kid, however you want, was brought there and Razor kind of said, look, I can put the kid over. I can make, then with that victory, that kind of catapulted 1, 2, 3 into his position. And then ultimately, yeah, he became, X-Pac, Sean Waltman, however you want to look at it on the NWO side of things. And then DX and everything just went from there. I mean, those guys were inseparable. I mean, you've heard so many stories about the clique backstage. It was, Michaels, it was Hunter, it was Hall, it was Nash, it was Waltman. That was kind of your clique there. They kind of traveled together and they just, man, I mean, again, you become a family away from your family, but those guys just eat, slept, and, eat, sleep, and drink wrestling. That's what they did. And, they partied hard, but they showed up and they did the work. I remember, I mean, I'm just trying to think back. I was fortunate enough, it was in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. It was a 4 Horsemen against the NWO when Kurt Hennig turned on the Horsemen. And Steve Chapman said that was the first time I ever saw a jobber beat a superstar. Yeah, but what's funny is everybody looked at the 1, 2, 3 Kid as a jobber, but he was the Lightning Kid on some of these other, before he got to that area, he was a bona fide cruiserweight star. He was seen outside of it. Yeah, when you got the WWE, a lot of people don't know, to them wrestling was either WWE or WCW. But at that point, I mean, he had a name for himself, and the fact that Razor did the honors for him in his, I want to say it was one of his first matches at WWE. I'm sure he had some dark matches and some tryouts and things like that. But for that to be the first, on Raw, and at that time, they were in what was not the Hammerstein Ballroom? What were they getting? They're filming it at the smaller setup they had there, which was very intimate setting, and to see that happen, as you're saying, a smaller guy, actually take out a superstar. That wasn't seen back then, Steve. I agree with you there. AKW beats, yo, yep, hey yo, R.I.P. Scott Hall, definitely. Tonight, Kevin Nash actually opened up Raw by saying, hey yo, and I thought it was good, but also you could tell that, during that, there were some emotions being held back there. And he also went with Seth Rollins in the back, and he was cutting the promo, and he changed it from bad times don't last to tough times don't last, but tough guys do, for that instant. But a lot of things there, Rollins, I'm not sure if it was a tribute or he kind of did the airplane that Scott Hall did to the ring, but with his new gimmick that he's doing, I'm not 100% sure if that was a tribute towards Scott Hall or what there, but I thought the package they did for him near the end of the show, and the standing ovation, and can you remember it ever happening before or since, Sean, a jobber beating a main star? Not to that extent. I don't think so. I'm trying to, if you think, playing results now, I guess Goldberg wouldn't be that, but when Goldberg burst on the scene, he was beating William Regal. He was beating some of the guys, and he had never been seen before. But of course, we know what Goldberg has become since then. So I guess maybe you can see that, or maybe possibly that Barry Horowitz at the time when he finally won a match, but I think that was over. I can't remember who that was 100%, but it wasn't at the level that the Razor Ramon was at when 1-2-3 Kid beat him. So you may be, you're probably onto something there, Steve, as far as at that level at that time. But yeah, no, no, not beating a main star. Frankie Fresco, I thought maybe Triple H would have said something. I'm sure those guys are probably past wanting to talk right now. You got those guys were very close. A lot of, it's not just a working relationship with those guys. They've been through great times together. They've been through bad times together. They competed against each other. That's one of the things where, ultimately, I think down the line, maybe you'll see something. I've seen some, there was some tweets out and things like that, and Instagrams where, they did put some stuff out there. But, again, it's a tough thing, man. It's a tough situation for those guys because, it's tough to lose anybody, but to watch, everything that happened with Scott Hall battling his demons, seeing, him turn it around, and he was just full of life when you saw him. Right before his last time on Raw would have been actually, I believe they said right before the Raw, before they shut it down for COVID, was the last time he was on WWE TV. Do you think AEW will make a reference to Scott Hall? I checked their IG page, but I did not see anything. I saw something on Twitter where they did send something out. So ultimately, I think, I think you do something. Good evening, Sean. Dang, you're up late doing the show, then up early with Big O. Yeah, man. Got to get the wrestling talk in first, man. This is me, and then I wake up and actually I get up way before that because I got to take my daughter to school and then come back to the OK Coin Studios, and then I get to work with Big O. So it's an early morning, but it's worth it to get up and sit up with you guys. My first memory of Scott Hall, he had that Magnum PI Tom Selleck look running on the beach, classic 80s promo of a wrestler coming into the territory. Yeah, I think that would have been when he was Scott Gator. They're bringing him as Gator Scott Hall, I believe, and that was in NWA at the time, Mike, I believe, because that's one of the, I went back and looked at things because I remembered him in Championship Wrestling from Florida, but very, very quickly he was there. But I guess he worked with Dusty training him, and then Barry Windham, Mike Rotundo worked with him a little bit, and then him and Dan Spivey went to the NWA, and then they kind of broke up and everything else. Then he left, and then when he was coming back to the NWA territories, they did the Magnum PI Tom Selleck look running on the beach, which was, I believe, when he was doing the Gator Scott Hall, and then he went to AWA and teamed up with Kurt Hennig there and became tag team champions. And then he was in the running. He was in the running to get the AWA title. But what I was reading from stories was that he just said, it's too damn cold in this territory in Minnesota. I don't want to be the champion here. I don't want to be your champion. It's too cold. So he left that territory and then went over to Japan for a little bit, came back for a WWF tryout at the time, and then went to WCW where he teamed with Diamond Dallas Page and a young Vinny Vegas, which was Kevin Nash before he became Oz. And then at that time, he was the Diamond Stud. So Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, they've linked paths a lot in their careers, which is why I think ultimately when Nash went up there with Shawn Michaels as Diesel, it just kind of all clicked with them because they had already been in territories together working, as tag team partners. It was Diamond Dallas Page was managing them at that time. It's just, man, it's just, when you look back, I didn't even, as I was looking at it, and just like, man, look at what Scott Hall did in his career. He had the first ladder match. We talked about him, what he did for the 1, 2, 3 kid, Sean Waltman there. Shows up at, WCW, and behind the scenes, he went there because they were going to pay him more. They're giving him a guaranteed contract. He kind of changed the way contracts were given out. Him, Kevin Nash leaving WWE and going over to WCW for more guaranteed money. Forget all this, you get paid by. No, he changed it to where the boys are going to get paid. The boys and the girls they're going to get their pay. And that's something that, to this day, everybody that's, working now, I mean, you get your guarantees now, man. That's something that wasn't always around. But man, it's just, I mean, looking back at Scott Hall, just the Wolf, when he did he did the black and white, and then he helped out. I watched it just the other day, Goldberg, when he lost to Kevin Nash, because there's I love the Razor versus Goldust program. Yeah, I heard that he was actually a little bit taken aback by that whole thing with the way, because remember, Goldust put the heart on his chest and he unzipped his thing, and he had the razor and the heart, and it was a great program, man. That was a great program there. It got a little bit crazy. That was, again, during the Attitude Era. It was really anything goes. But I know at first, I believe he was a little bit taken aback at some of the things that was happening during that program. But but again, you got two great performers. Dustin Rhodes can go as Goldust, and of course Scott Hall as Razor Ramon. Those, I mean, when you got two guys that can go, and not only that, but both of them can talk, and both of them were in the gimmicks, whereas the Goldust gimmick at that time was real edgy. I mean, real edgy. And then Razor Ramon's this machismo guy who oozes machismo. And then you got the Goldust character, and it was perfect. It was perfect for that time. Goldust was that perfect heel for that Razor Ramon character. And it was just, I'm thinking back like now with all the stuff they did with Razor Ramon, and then I think back too with how over they were, where Vince McMahon said, you know what? I'm the one that made the stars. I made them stars. I'm going to bring out the fake Diesel, the fake Razor Ramon, and we'll see what happens. And you saw what happened. I mean, those two guys got booed out of the building, and it lasted a week, maybe two. I think the first week they debuted, the second week they wrestled, the third week they were already gone. It was Adrian Street on steroids. Yeah. Yeah, Adrian Street, man, was that guy so far ahead of his time? Oh, I used to love watching him down here in Florida. Just exotic Adrian Street and Miss Linda. Oh my goodness, they had some good stuff. But yeah, the Goldust character was that on steroids, man, and it was just a totally different time. And I don't know that character. hmm, I'll ask you guys right now. Do you think right now a Goldust character? Yeah, fake Diesel was Glenn Jacobs. Yeah, before he was Dr. Isaac Yankum, and then he was the fake Diesel. And my goodness, thank goodness for the Kane character. They couldn't figure out what to do with this guy. They were like, "Hey, this guy's great. We need him to do something. We just can't find a gimmick for him." And luckily, he fell into the Kane gimmick, and yeah, the rest is history. And now he's a mayor. Looking a little bit at Raw tonight. KO and Seth Rollins kind of dominated the show. Leading up to WrestleMania, Kevin Owens wins, gets his match, or whatever they're doing with Stone Cold. They keep saying, a KO show, but he came out and said he's going to, fight and beat up Stone Cold. Stone Cold went out and said he's going to fight and beat up Kevin Owens. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with the whole KO show, but it's going to be definitely a fight between the two of them. So we'll see what happens there. Don't forget, share your Scott Hall memories. You want to throw them in the chat right now, or you can hit me up at Sean_Stanley11 on Twitter or Instagram, and leave them there if you're listening to us on the podcast. And then the NWO, when they first debuted, I remember him with Eric Bischoff, man. Just the way they were pushing it. I mean, actually, he came in during a match. It was it Mike Enos? Mike Enos. I don't think that gimmick could work like it did in the 90s. Yeah, no, I don't know that anybody could carry out that gimmick, man. When you look at what Dustin, that gimmick at the beginning was a shot at Dusty Rhodes. I believe, if the story serves me right, that was kind of a shot at Dusty, because Dustin wanted to distance himself. There was some strain there in the relationship, the father-son relationship. He wanted to distance himself from what the American Dream Dusty Rhodes was. And then he was given, this character, and he hopped on board with it and made it his own. And then he brought Marlena in, which was his wife, Terry Runnels at the time, and they did their thing. And I thought it was a great gimmick. Tremendous gimmick. I love me some Goldust. Yeah, Edwin, definitely top 5. Stardust. Everybody's going to be upset. I'm sure Twitter, I haven't checked it since the Raw went off the air, but everybody was gung-ho that Cody Rhodes was showing up at Raw tonight to be the one to give Seth Rollins match at WrestleMania. 24K Gold Productions, 100%. And that parking lot brawl with Roddy Piper, that was tremendous. Yeah, Dusty used that phrase in the 70s, Stardust. Yeah, that's where Starcade came from. That was part of the name of Starcade, came from the whole thing with the Stardust thing. Love me some Dusty Rhodes. American Dream, the Bull of the Woods, baby. Never get enough of Dusty Rhodes, man. Now him and Scott Hall up there with, so tremendous. Can you imagine the federation that's up there right now looking down on us? Shattered Dreams, one of the best finishers, yeah. How will they get Seth Rollins into WrestleMania? I have no idea how they're going to do Seth Rollins right now. I wish I could sit here, Frankie, and say A, B, C, D. I think ultimately, I don't understand what they're doing with a couple things right now at WrestleMania. Austin Theory has a match with Pat McAfee. They had him interfere and attack Finn Balor tonight, who I believe is working a program to be at WrestleMania to take on Damian Priest. So unless they're going to do some matches Saturday and Sunday, where maybe Finn versus Damian Priest on Saturday, the winner versus Austin Theory on Sunday. I mean, I don't know what they're doing. Edwin, I'm bugging about. Yeah, no, man, it's been it's a tough day, man. I mean, I'll be very transparent with you. During the whole show, with the Big O show today, I was checking my Twitter feed just to see, one, for the free agency, of course, but two, just to see the announcement of because I know they were at around noon, I believe it was. They took him off life support, and then he fought, man. He fought. And then I saw it come across. I started Raw a little bit later, about 10 minutes later, and the first thing I saw was the Scott Hall and the dates, and I was like, and I hadn't even gone on Twitter, and I stayed away from Twitter for most of the show. I'm not gonna lie, I've been on Twitter in a little bit just because, man, dude, it's just, I mean, when you start looking at, like Scott Hall was wrestling, like when you look, Dusty Rhodes, he was already a star by the time I had been, you know, by the time I grew up enough to understand what wrestling was. But, I watched Scott Hall's career kind of go from, championship wrestling from Florida over to AWA to, Gator Scott Hall to Diamond Stud to this to Razor Ramon. It's one of those guys that you saw all the way through, and it's hit me a little bit harder than, and again, I mean, yeah, the ones that, sudden deaths, your Eddie Guerreros, those always hit you hard. But, just to watch, Dusty hit me hard when it happened. And this one is hit me pretty hard, man. It really has. Yeah, I mean, you always hope they kick out, but man, um, it's just, I mean, apparently there was a blood clot too, which was causing the heart attacks and things like that. It's just, man, oh, they made the Kane the bogus Undertaker in the Undertaker versus Undertaker match. No, that's not true. It was Brian Lee. Brian Lee was the fake Undertaker. They brought him in just to do the fake Undertaker gimmick. He was about the same tall. If you haven't seen him, he was in ECW, and then he came over to be the Undertaker versus the Undertaker match for the Undertaker versus Undertaker. He was the fake Undertaker with Ted DiBiase the whole time, and then when they brought the Undertaker back, the rest was as it went. The WWE show was kind of hurting with the legend passing like that. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, man. Especially when he was fighting, and everybody's hoping. You always hope. You have the hope that maybe a miracle will happen, and then I don't know when they got word, but I had not seen anything up until I saw WWE post something. So I'm not sure when that actually happened. I don't know if it happened primetime Brian Lee. Yeah, Mike. I'm not sure which when exactly it happened and when the word got passed on. You could see Kevin Owens, man. He looked very emotional when he came out there, and then when he did the "Hey Yo," it definitely brought some emotion in him, and he was a little bit choked up, man. And that it is a tough thing to do, man. And again, because a lot of these guys, you know, Hall of Fame, Scott Hall had been around, some of those guys working with them, maybe possibly at some of the independent shows and things like that they worked up with. Scott Hall is one of those guys that gave back, man. He gave and he took and he gave, man. Everything that he took, he made sure to give back. And that's the one thing about Scott Hall, and that's going to be man, just missed. This one hurt because we saw him at his lowest and we saw him climb back. Yeah, no, 100%, man, 100%. And he battled back to get back to the top too. I mean, dude, that Hall of Fame speech. I on the, right before the show went on, and I'll do it again at the end. What I put up for him, I took that, from the end of the speech, man, and it's just, it's one of those things, man. And I was listening. One of the writers actually shared some stuff on Twitter, who helped write the Hall of Fame speech for him. Was like, he was one of the wrestlers where, you know, they didn't. They sat there to do the Hall of Fame speech, and he had it already down and exactly what he wanted to do. But that's who he was, man. He was very. Look, I mean, yeah, he had his demons, he had his things like that. But if you watch his matches and you watched, he's very, very attention to detail oriented when it comes to wrestling. He knows what he wants to do. He knows every little movement. I mean, just the flick of the toothpick. Those movements, those weren't just like, the way he did his hair when he first started. That was all, just it's the same thing with a lot of the guys. When you look at your top guys, it's always about little movements. The Undertaker, look, he walked to the ring. Every step he took was to the beat of the music. If you watched him go, that's what made those guys stand out so good. They understood the little things got the best reaction. It's him looking, it's him standing up and doing the, when he used to do the pump and then the out, his arms go out when he got into the ring. It's all those little things. Hey, yo, when he did the surveys, it's all the little things. You got to go out and do 6,000 flips and jump to the balcony and do everything else. It's the little things that fans catch on to. And then you go from there and you take it from there and you grow your characters, your gimmicks, and it's exactly what he did, man. They all grew up watching Scott Hall, 100%. Drew Brew, nice shot. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Edwin, yeah, great attention to detail. He understood the business and how to craft the proper gimmick. Yeah. Yeah, because I remember the first time I saw Razor Ramon, somebody told me it was Scott Hall, and I said, there's no damn way that's Scott Hall. And I said, there's no damn way that's Scott Hall. Not Scott Gator Hall. There's no way. Even though I saw him as the Diamond Stud and you saw a little bit of the, Razor Ramon type gimmick there as the Diamond Stud because his hair was down and it wasn't the curly Scott Hall hair there. It just, dude, I'm like, this guy he can't do a Cuban accent. I believe he's from Minnesota. And man, did he do that and so much more. Scott Hall did shoot a shot at Paige. Think she was honored by it. Laugh out loud, great guy. Yeah, I don't know that whole situation there. I love when he walked underneath the ladder when he entered the ring for his ladder match at WrestleMania. When you're that cool, when you're that damn cool, don't matter how bad you are, buddy. Yeah, such a great little move. It is. It's just little thing. It's, man, I'm trying to think like right now, like when you look at, yeah, no, it's perfect for his character. It was perfect. It was everything that the top guys do with their gimmicks is it's meant to add to their character and also to catch something, the fans into something with them, right? Stone Cold turned into the middle finger, got the reaction. The Austin 316 says, I'm going to kick your ass, says, I just whooped your ass. All those little things. Bret Hart, I'm the best there is, the best, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Boom. And again, it's about it. Yes, you can sit there and say those words, but if the fans don't buy them coming from you, you're just another performer. And that's where I think some of today's stars fall a little bit short. Yeah, they got these great taglines that the writers give them and everything else, but the fans see through some of those characters, those gimmicks. And that's the thing back in the day is like they knew that had to be them, whether it was their gimmick or not. Dustin Rhodes had to live that gimmick, whether that's him or not. He had to make Goldust work. Yeah, no, I believe that's what he did. He watched Scarface to get the accent. Is Scott Hall the best wrestler to never win a world title? You know what, Jared? No. Well, you know what? I guess, yeah, I mean, in a way, because I was going to say Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, but I believe he was the AWA heavyweight champion at one time. So if you want to count that, but as far as the WCW and WWE goes, to me, Kurt Hennig was one of those guys. Was probably the best player never to win a world title on that level. He had the AWA title, I believe, for a little while when they were doing there. But I mean, he's definitely up there. He's definitely top 3, top 5, maybe. I would even go top 3. I think you go. I'm trying to think right now off the top of my head. Kurt Henning's probably 1. Scott Hall 2. Ted DiBiase's probably 3. I mean, he bought the title, but he didn't win a title. And no, he beats. That's very true. He never really needed the belt, but that's what makes those guys so good. He could take, but also you have to remember one thing too. In the WWE, WWF, the Intercontinental title was the working championship. That was the title that the best worker got, and they, Shawn Michaels got it. Bret Hart was the IC title, Razor Ramon, and you go down. That was their workers title because they usually had the heavyweight title on a big guy. So the big guy would come, the IC title would be on the line for 20 minutes at a show, bring in the heavyweight guy. He does the big boot, the leg drop, a clothesline, and he's out in 3 to 4 minutes. And the IC title was the workers title. So a lot of your better talents usually got the IC title as far as the workers, because they would headline at the time when there was loops. You had A loop and B loop, and sometimes the Intercontinental title. Yeah, Arn Anderson, definitely, Mike. Yeah. Damn, bro, caught you live. Oh, SoCal Derek, good to see you, man. Glad you caught us live here on the show. But if you guys got guys, keep throwing names out there. Arn Anderson, definitely one of the best to not hold a heavyweight title. And if you wanted to, I'm thinking too, like Tully Blanchard could go there too. He won the TV title, but I don't think he ever won a heavyweight title, and then he went into the tag team with Arn. So, you have some of those guys. Jake the Snake never won a world title. Yeah, I believe you're going WWE and WCW ish. Yeah, you're right. Jake never won a world title. So no, and Duggan should have had an IC run. Duggan, yeah, but him and Sheik, that story ended both their careers. So Piper, I believe, did win the WCW title in that whole NWO type days. I think he won it once. I believe he won the WCW title. Let me verify this. I believe it was at a Starrcade, and I believe he actually won the WCW title from Hulk Hogan. I go to my handy dandy notebook here. Roddy Piper, WCW champion. Let me see here. Don't let me down here, handy dandy. Championships and accomplishments. No, I guess maybe he didn't win it. Looking at it here. WWE, not there, nothing there. So I'm guessing, man, for some reason, I thought he had won the title. Let's see here. No, I guess I'm wrong. I guess, yeah, throw Piper on there. Yeah, I for some reason thought that he had won a title when they're doing the whole thing with Hollywood Hogan. Why doesn't WWE do like those promos, commercials like back in the day? Razor Ramon would be at a restaurant, walking the store, and spitting at the guy. Probably production costs. I mean, they're not getting, WWE is getting the money from Peacock, Saudi Arabia, and their NBC Universal, their TV deals. So they don't really need to do all that stuff anymore, because you're going to watch the product anyways. Back then, you had to get guys over like that. Michael Hayes, yeah, I mean, Michael Hayes was a very good performer in his day. The man can dress too. man can dress. Like Juice them before making their debut. You know, I mean, you can now, but most of the guys have already been seen, right? I mean, you're not doing that, like you're not pulling guys off of their now you're not pulling them off the street and changing them in territories from, they're usually, if they're name brands, you're bringing them in and they don't need the build up, totally how to run, but never took off. I think they started the Horsemen right after it. Yeah. Yeah. And another one, I think, Magnum TA, I know his career was cut short, but, and he probably would have been a champion, but, I think he would have been good. Jimmy Snuka. Yeah. I mean, if you go that route, I guess Don Morocco too. I mean, you could go if you go back old school. I mean, you got guys back then. You look at your Morocco's, Greg Valentine, Barry Windham did win the NWA belt. No, wait, it was him and Luger when Flair left to go to WWE. They ran a match. It was Luger against Barry, and I think actually Luger won that match. So maybe Barry did not actually have the NWA belt because I think that's when they gave it to Lex there. That's when I believe the Harley Race whole thing started there. WCW, yeah. Okay. Don't think it was NWA time. Okay. So then maybe he won it when because I know him and Lex were kind of feuding for a little bit at the beginning when Flair left. It was those two were kind of going for the title at that time. So British Bulldog, I think, was a good worker. I don't know that he's up there with your Scott Halls. And not taking anything away from him because man, he was impressive. He's strong as hell, and he could go. But I don't know that he was up there with, I mean, I think, you got British Bulldog, Michael Hayes. Those guys are maybe a tier below some of the other guys that we were mentioning. I thought, I mean, again, I mean, going back when you look at like back in the older days, Mike Rotundo to me could have been a pretty good champion. I mean, I know when everybody starts looking at IRS and some of those other things, I'm talking about Mike Rotundo when he teamed with Barry Windham and they're the US Express, the younger Mike Rotundo, I thought always could be a good title holder too. But then again, would he have been another Bob Backlund? Bob Backlund was a hell of a wrestler. He just had no no character. Nothing. He just couldn't get it. He wanted to be a wrestler 24 hours. That's what he wanted. The wrestler. It just was not in the cards for him to have the personality. That's the word I was trying to look for. Terry Bam Bam Gordy. Hell yes. Hell yes. Yeah, Bob had no gimmick. He was Bob Backlund, and that was the time where wrestling was changing, man. And Vince saw the change, and kudos to him to say, yeah, Rick Rude did win a title. He was a WCW champion at one point. I believe he was champion when he actually got injured in Japan. Jared Nichols, facts. Bray never recovered from his Cena program. Bray never recovered from a few things. The Goldberg beating him in Saudi Arabia, terrible. The chairs and the what was that, Hell in a Cell? The chairs with it was just crap. Bob Backlund was awesome. Saw him fight the Big Boss Man in Miami Arena back in the day. Yeah, no, I mean Bob Backlund was fantastic. And when he became the politician, he finally picked up that personality because I think if he had that personality to begin with, they might have looked a little bit differently at getting the belt to the Iron Sheik to turn it over to Hulk Hogan to start wrestling now. And then I wonder where we're at because it would have been a whole different thing there. World Class Championship Wrestling kicked ass. ESPN, I had World Championship Wrestling and AWA down here in Florida. I'm not sure what you had in different areas, but here, 4:00 in the afternoon, man, turn that on, and you had World Class Championship Wrestling for a while, and then AWA took over. But man, dude, the feuds back then with the Von Erichs, and I always loved the way they did at the Sportatorium, where the face is over there signing the autographs in the corner while the introductions are going on, and then all of a sudden everybody gets back to their seats, and then the match happens. It was good stuff there, man. You had Bruiser Brody, you had the Freebirds, the Von Erichs, Dingo Warrior, where the Ultimate Warrior started. Did Tatanka win a world title? No. I think he won the IC title. The Von Erichs were amazing. Yeah, man. Yeah, you're talking about a very, very talented family that just a lot of misfortunes, man. A lot of misfortunes. Kevin now his two sons are wrestling for MLW, so we'll have to see where they go. Ross and who's the other? What's the other Von Erich? Ross and Mike. Charisma. Thank you. That's probably the word better than personality. Charisma. That's what Bob Backlund lacked a lot of. Charisma. Which he found when he became a politician or whatever his thing he was doing when he was running for president or whatever he was doing. I'm not even sure what that was. And remember, he actually won the title again, and he's the one that put the title on Diesel. He did the honors. Diesel beat him in 12 seconds. And that's kind of how Diesel won the title. And that was done at a house show that they recorded to play back on the next Raw because they wanted something big to happen at that time. Chris Adams was amazing. Yes. Manny, Gino Hernandez. I'm sorry. Gino Hernandez and Chris Adams back then. Man, dude, you had such good stuff there. Al Perez was there at the time. I thought he was going to be a star. Man, you had some good guys there at World Class Championship Wrestling. Wild Bill Irwin was good there. He was a good heel for, some of the baby faces to go over on. I just thought they had a little bit of everything at World Class Championship Wrestling. And again, Fritz Von Erich, made his sons, and that's one of the things that happened. David Von Erich, who died tragically in Japan, was supposed to become the NWA champion. Then Fritz wanted Kerry to become the champion, and he pushed for his sons to be the champion. Then Kerry got the belt, and then he started showing up late and not showing up at all for shows, through the NWA, because the NWA as a territory, Ric Flair, when he was the champion, would go to the different territories. Your champion traveled. Kerry became that champion and was not, as reliable as Ric Flair was. So then they quickly put the title back on Ric Flair, and then everything goes there. And who he turned into. Anybody remember Dizzy Hogan and who he turned into? Dizzy Hogan. Yeah, he lost half of his foot in a car accident or a motorcycle accident. You got me a Dizzy Hogan? Oh, you're telling Brutus Beefcake. Wow, I didn't even know he was Dizzy Hogan. That's hilarious. I knew he came in as like a Hogan member or a family or something, but wow, I did not even know that was Brutus Beefcake, huh? Dizzy Hogan. Wow, that's hilarious. I'm looking at this picture right now, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but that's Hogan and Brutus Beefcake right there. It's Dizzy Hogan and Hulk Hogan. That's hilarious, man. Wow. That is something else, man. What about USWA with the young Steve Austin? Yeah, Steve Austin was also in he was in World Class, right? At the end there, and then it became USWA is when they combined them. There, yeah, he had more to Beefcake was whatever. He's just what is his Zodiac at the end, and then just he should have just done the barbershop forever. But a lot going on. Be on here for a couple more minutes. Make sure you get your questions in here on the chat at Sean_Stanley11 on Twitter or on Instagram. Don't forget to hit the like button. Appreciate everybody that's been on here today. Talking some wrestling, talking some Scott Hall. And man, I appreciate you guys. You guys are like therapy, man. Being able to sit here and just talk and everything else, because it was a tough day. Today is a tough day. for, again, as I said before, and most of you probably as well grew up watching Scott Hall and just what he meant to the wrestling business that I really do passionately care about. And I probably watch it a little bit differently than some of you, but we all watch it because we like it, and everybody can have their own opinions on it, man. But what he did, and trying to think of some of the other Beefcake gimmicks as well too right now. I know he had Zodiac. I know he had Beefcake, Dizzy Hogan. I know he did Ed Leslie, which is his real name. And he ran in the Portland territory. See, I didn't know all the Northeast territories. I'm not too familiar with. I mean, I know Matt Bourne, just because of when he came to Florida from up that way. Roddy Piper, of course, those guys. Bam Bam Bigelow never won a belt. He did win the ECW belt. But I 100% agree. I mean, he was another big man. Terry Gordy, and Stan Hansen, when they were in Japan, were just barbaric. And Bam Bam's so damn good for a big guy, man. I love, and I watch it still to this day, when he fought Spike Dudley, and he threw Spike Dudley from the ring into the crowd, and then the crowd body surfed Spike Dudley around and then placed him back over the barricade. Just tremendous. And then also when he beat Taz, Taz put the Taz mission on him, and then he just dove back, and they both went through the ring, and then he pulled up Taz from the ground and picked up the I believe it was the ECW TV title at the time. I don't think it was the heavyweight title. I don't think Taz was the heavyweight champion. I think that's what led to the Taz Shane Douglas feud after Bam Bam beat him. But man, just a tremendous big guy, man. I don't think he got enough credit for how good he was. And then also just, I mean, look, dude, I honestly thought, looking back at it now with the whole Lawrence Taylor, I don't know any other person that can get in that match and make it what it was, other than, I think, Bam Bam, because he worked with Lawrence Taylor and made that match, what it was and what it did come out to. The Disciple, was a Beefcake character. Yeah, there you go. We could probably do a whole show. Just guys, just keep. Tony, thanks for that. Jared Nichols, Bam Bam, Taz was a great feud. It was. I mean, I think a lot of the ECW feuds were awesome, man, and not just because the blood, the hardcore, whatever. It just a lot of them. And you know what? I want to talk about this because we were talking about storytelling. Owen Hart never won a world title. 100%, Frankie, correct. Did you know that Tony Khan, when they got AEW and they kind of mapped out their champions, he had the first four AEW World Heavyweight Champions picked. There's going to be Jericho to Moxley to Omega to Page. It's as far as he got, but he had those four. That was going to be his group for the heavyweight title. And now you want to talk about more storytelling? Scorpio Sky has always been slated to win the TNT title. It was supposed to be from Cody Rhodes, but with the whole thing going on with Cody Rhodes, they had to put the strap back on Sammy Guevara, which prolonged it a little bit. But ultimately, Scorpio Sky was always slated to be where he's at now as the TNT champion. That all has been played out. That was all written, and they'd been known about it for the last year. So do you want to talk about storytelling and how it works to a T? That right there tells you what is kind of setting AEW apart, because he went in with a plan and he said, hey, these are going to be my first four champions. When we get the TNT title, he said, this is how we're going to lay it out for the next year. And that, I think, is what is building up the momentum for AEW over what WWE does, because I almost feel, and I know that half the time the scripts are written and handed out right before the show goes live. So, Rip Oliver, Playboy Boy, Billy Jack Haynes. I remember when he came down to Florida, man, that dude was jacked. A little bit on the crazy side right now, but he was jacked. I don't think Cesaro will ever win a world title, but that dude is a great wrestler. Yeah, sometimes, though, the one thing is too, and it can be a curse, is that you're so good and you can do so many styles that you end up being that guy that catapults everybody else to the world title. That's kind of, I think, where Cesaro, at least in WWE. Now does he go to AEW and that changes? I think he fell into that trap in WWE as a heel and a face. He fell in that trap where he catapulted whoever's getting that run or whatever would end up probably feuding with him and then moving up. And then that's kind of, what happens. Do you think Wardlow, will not win this? No, I don't think he's winning this Wednesday. I think you're going to see MJF come out and cost Wardlow, and then they'll feud. I don't think Scorpio Sky is going to be a champion for 3 weeks. I don't know. I don't think so. You have a feud right there that is at the ripe, and Wardlow doesn't need the TNT title. I think Scorpio Sky and that group needs the TNT title more than Wardlow does. Wardlow's over without the belt. Now you come out and MJF costs him, and now you build that feud up. You could be making money with them too quickly. Wasn't that Taz match with Bam Bigelow in the Florida at the War Memorial? I know they fought at the War Memorial. I don't know if that specific one was at the War Memorial, Mike, but I'm not going to say you're wrong because I cannot remember where exactly that was at. Tony, Sean, WBRE. What does that mean? Oh, I think you hit it by accident. Okay. Sean, where do you think Cody Rhodes will end up? Man, I don't know. Everything I'm reading, there's so many contradicting out there. I do kind of follow Fightful the closest, and everybody's playing this very close to the vest, so nobody really knows. There was talk that he would end up showing back up in AEW as like not an NWO type thing, but like a renegade thing with FTR and also Bray Wyatt. So is that still in the cards too? Ultimately that is, because you saw FTR fire Tully Blanchard. They're posting a lot of stuff about they're not happy with where they are, in AEW. They're taking some independent bookings. They say they love pro wrestling. So ultimately, I don't know, man. But also the money is with WWE. And that's the one thing that I think might be the only reason I think he would go to WWE is the money's there. Because remember, they were brought in as EVPs. And after a few shows, that was kind of, they're still EVPs, but they weren't really booking a lot of the matches anymore. Tony kind of took over the direction of what AEW is going to be. So, it wasn't, maybe all the roses that it was portrayed. I think Cody Rhodes is a professional, and he came and he did his job. And I think all these guys are, but ultimately, look, if you're not making the money, which with the AEW, they said there was going to be tiered, levels depending on your, how long you've been wrestling, how much you're, contributing to the show, different tiers for different guys. They're not giving out like multi-million-dollar deals. At least when they first started AEW, that was the case. You bring in CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, some of these other guys, ultimately that money, they're getting paid somehow. What they're doing, and again, that's why I said I want to almost say it's almost going back to what WCW was back in the day, where Time Warner was paying Hulk Hogan. Those contracts were under Time Warner, not WCW, which is why Vince buys WCW and he doesn't get Hogan, Nash, Hall, Sting. All the big talent was being paid by Turner. They didn't go over. So I'm wondering if the same thing is happening with this in AEW, maybe a Shad Khan or Tony Khan investment type company is paying that salary. So it's not on AEW and their salary there. He's leaving AEW. Didn't he start it? Yeah. All signs are pointing toward him. Possibly he's out of AEW. There were some contract negotiations. Apparently they didn't go well. And again, you're going to get your money at WWE. You're probably not going to get that money. There was talk that he might have been at Raw tonight. That didn't happen. And you know what? Maybe. But the other thing, Mike, where I say I don't know if they can do, because they said they want Ring of Honor to be their developmental, like their NXT. I don't know that you bring that in as an invasion, because how many people? I mean, there's barely enough time for the people on TV now. There's so many promos just so they can get the talent on during Dynamite. How many? When you do an invasion angle, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with all the talent? So it's going to be interesting. These next couple months could be very interesting for the AEW product. Frankie Fresco, to be honest, I was not happy with Jericho making a new group, but I guess they still pushing him. Yeah, I mean, but it's Jericho also building up other guys, right? Santana, Ortiz, Guevara, those guys don't need Inner Circle anymore. And Santana Ortiz probably didn't need Jericho at the beginning. Sammy Guevara, just to kind of get that rub from a veteran leader, I think that was good for him. But those guys don't need him anymore. Your 2.0, your Daniel Garcia, those guys, they need to get something. Now this will put them up there in some feuds. Now again, you're gonna have Santana, Ortiz, and Jericho against Santana, Ortiz, and Kingston against Jericho and 2.0, or Jericho, Hager, and Daniel Garcia. Ultimately puts them up a level of competition just by associating with Chris Jericho. Well, I mean, it is what it is. It's the Jericho Appreciation Society. I mean, it's not very creative, if we shall say, but I think it'll do its job, because I think 2.0 and Daniel Garcia are great, or they're good wrestlers, they're good workers, they're good talent. Now they're going to get that little rub with Jericho and Hager a little bit. And now let's see if they can move up a level. Now it's up to them. They're going to get here with Jericho and them. Can they boost it up like what Santana Ortiz did, what Sammy Guevara did? Can they take that next step up? All Jericho and them are there now is to put a floor. Now, do they go above, or are they going to go under? Because if it doesn't work out, then it falls on probably Jericho at this point. And we'll see how that goes, because Inner Circle worked. But also Inner Circle worked because you had the Pinnacle. It worked because, you always had that group. You had the Elite. You always had that, face group or heel group to make them work. Can you do the same thing now that you have Jericho with these guys? Do you think Randy Orton going to betray Riddle anytime soon? It just seems like Randy giving him too much praise, which usually ends in a betrayal. I am surprised that this group has lasted this long. And to be honest, if they weren't so over, they probably would have already broken them up. So for right now, I believe they will stay a tag team. Maybe you see the change at WrestleMania. But I wouldn't be surprised also if they keep them together, because right now they're damn good merchandise. RK Bro, I got a hat right there, and the shirts at the show here in Miami when I went to it. It was a Monday Night Raw, and their shirts were pretty much sold out by the end of the night. I had to go to two different setups. By the third one, I was able to get one. So I mean, and just like with Cena, they don't like getting rid of those cash cows. But ultimately, yes, it's gonna end with Orton betraying Riddle. And when that happens, I don't know, because honestly, maybe with the COVID and everything else, and then also I think Orton got hurt. And so, ultimately, I think some things changed the timeline of it, but I don't think they're supposed to be tag team this long. I know my understanding was WrestleMania 38 was supposed to be Riddle versus Orton. And now you're seeing what is going on there. Daniel Grafton, man, you're going to ask me really a life question here? Totally off topic, Sean, but I have a serious question. Any advice on how to cope with living with mentally ill people that are family, first cousins, that are difficult to live with? Sorry, need advice. Are you a gamer, Daniel Grafton? If you are, there's a lock on the doors. Lock it. Just sit there, play games, watch some wrestling, watch some TV, listen to me talk wrestling on the Squared Circle Digest, listen to O Talk Sports, listen to Limit City Live, listen to whatever you want to do, and stay away from them. Yeah, it got deep quick, didn't it, Edwin? See what happens when you don't bring me on the here. Yes, you're a gamer. There you go. Hook up whatever you got. I don't know what all they got now. Xbox, PlayStation, Atari 2600 still out there. ColecoVision, any of that stuff still around? That's what I did. Atari 2600, Pong. Beep, 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 beep. You can do that. All right. I want to thank everybody. Uh-oh. Bad shit happened. Oh, man. Wow. Daniel Grafton. I don't know. I don't know if I want to know, man. No, but Daniel Grafton, you are the man. Edwin, everybody, thanks so much for being on. Do you still play video games, including wrestling games? Actually, Frankie, I don't. I have a Xbox One, and I don't think I've done anything with it. The last game I played was NASCAR, and I do want to get hooked up because now, we'll see what happens. But currently, I'm not into the wrestling games. I'm not. I did. I know a lot of them are. Sitting there with the GM mode, that'd probably be what I would play the most, like GM mode, because that's what I want to do, man. I want to be able to be writing. I want to be creative. My ring time has passed me by. The wrestling time, it's passed me by. So I want to do, writing, creative, and all that stuff, man. But Frankie, Edwin, Daniel, Mike, Tony. See, make sure I don't miss anybody. 305 in the 505. Jared Nichols, SoCal Derek, Michael Fizak, AKW Beats, everybody else on the chat. 100%. Thank you guys so much. It means the world to me. You join me this late at night and listen to my gibberish and to listen to wrestling talk. We will be doing again tomorrow night, a little bit earlier, 10 o'clock, right after NXT goes off. There's going to be a Miz TV with Dolph Ziggler and Ciampa and Braun Breaker. But I will tell you this. In the words of the great Gordon Soley, so long from the Sunshine State.